So why do we say about public? Everyone's here. Wow, okay. No delayed meetings already? I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Bogota Board of Education for Tuesday, January 16th, 2024. Please stand for the flag salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty. Bear with me. The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of the public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Bogota Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, place, and thereof posted in the Bogota Borough Hall, communicated by letter to the record, filed with the clerk of the Borough of Bogota, and posted on the Bogota Board of Education website. For fun.
Mrs. Alcalde. The roll call.
All present.
Mrs. Alvarez,
Present.
Mr. Alvarez, present. Mr. Chavez, absent. Mrs. Cruz,
Present.
Mr. Navarro,
Present.
Mrs. Oliva,
Present.
Mrs. Rackett,
Present.
Mr. Miranda.
Present.
We have the quorum.
Also present is Superintendent Damian Kennedy, Board Attorney Thomas Coben, School Business Administrator Board Secretary Irfan Efsil, Assistant Board Secretary Elizabeth Ruiz, who we love and adore, and Student Representative is absent today. I'd like to open the floor to hearing of the citizens on agenda items only. Does anyone have, can I have a motion to open?
Alvarez.
Mr. Alvarez, do I have a second?
Olivo.
Mrs. Olivo, any board discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? If there's any member that would like to come up and address agenda items only, you will have a second portion of this agenda to discuss anything else. You have 5 minutes. Please state your name and street address.
No street address.
Oh,
Just their name. Take street address. We always do, but I read something we should stop. Yeah. I also think we should.
anyone? I'd like to have a motion to close hearing on citizen agenda items only.
Alvarez.
Do I have a second?
Olivo.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on to section 3.1 of the agenda, Superintendent's Room. Mr. Kennedy, you have the floor.
Good evening. First, we will be celebrating our 5-year pre-K anniversary on January 30th at Steen School. We're going to be inviting our original pre-K back with their families. That's going to start at 5 o'clock. Please RSVP if you're interested in coming. Middle school will host their winter concert next Monday, January 22nd at the middle school. Step sign was installed at the pre-K and transition building. Window and door decals will follow. Our new kitchen equipment from the Healthy Meal Incentive Grant was delivered and installed. We got a new range in the high school, new freezer, new cooler, and new warmers. All the old equipment that is still working was repurposed at Steen School and the middle school. The EV charger at the rec center was installed. We are waiting on the cage delivery and final inspection, and then we will hopefully have our electric bus out on the road. Vape detectors have been installed in all high school and middle school bathrooms and locker rooms. In total, we will now have 15 vape detectors in the high school and 8 in the middle school. And planning for redistricting is underway. Our admin team has been meeting and discussing the plans. I know community and staff have been asking questions. I will be hosting some meetings in the upcoming weeks to meet with our staff first and then our families to answer any questions and talk about how, where, and when the move will take place. Thank you.
Kennedy came live today. Moving on to 4.1, two resolutions that approval of the minutes for December 19th, regular public meeting open session. Do I have a motion to approve 4.1?
Motion.
Mrs. Rocket, do I have a second?
Second, Daniel.
Mrs. Alvarez, any board discussion? Irfan?
Mrs. Alcalde.
Yes.
Mrs. Alvarez,
Yes.
Mr. Alvarez,
Yes.
Mrs. Cruz,
Yes.
Mr. Navarro,
Yes.
Mrs. Olivo,
I wasn't here for that, so.
Yep, I'm gonna do the same, that you brought that up. I think we need to clear Mrs. Alcalde, she was not an elected official on December 19th. It's okay, we're learning, we're here to protect you.
Thank you.
So you are going to abstain.
Abstain.
Mrs. Reckett,
Yes.
Mr. Miranda,
Yes,
motion carried.
thank you. Thank you, BC, for that submission. That's it. Under policy, we have nothing. 6-9, moving on to resolution, 6-9 for the educational section. And then cover 6-1 through 6-8. Is there a motion to approve 6-9?
Motion.
Motion, Mrs. Rocket, do I have a second?
Alvarez,
Mr. Alvarez, any more discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Alcalde. Mrs. Alvarez,
Yes.
Mr. Alvarez,
Yes.
Mrs. Cruz,
Yes.
Mr. Navarro,
Yes.
Mrs. Olivo,
Yes.
Mrs. Reckett,
Yes.
Mr. Miranda. Motion carried.
Moving on to resolution 7-5 of the personnel section, which is the approval for agenda item 7-1 through 7-4. Do I have a motion to move 7-5?
Olivo?
Mrs. Olivo, do I have a second?
Navarro.
Mr. Navarro, any more discussion? Roll call, Irfan.
Mrs. Alcalde, Mrs. Alvarez,
Yes.
Mr. Alvarez,
Yes.
Mrs. Cruz,
Yes.
Mr. Navarro,
Yes.
Mrs. Olivo,
Yes.
Mrs. Reckett,
Yes.
Mr. Miranda.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Moving on to 8-8, resolution for the finance section. Do I have which is the approval of consent agenda items 8-1 through 8-7. Is there a motion to move 8-8?
Motion Olivo.
Mrs. Olivo, do I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Rocket, any more discussion? Irfan.
Mrs. Alcalde, Mrs. Alvarez,
Yes.
Mr. Alvarez,
Yes.
Mrs. Cruz,
Yes.
Mr. Navarro,
Yes.
Mrs. Olivo,
Yes.
Mrs. Reckett,
Yes.
Mr. Miranda.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Moving on to 9-1, buildings and grounds.
Frank.
This is the approval of consent.
Frank.
agenda. Can you hear me now? Does that mean I have to repeat all of this?
It's on.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh,
Should we do it again? All of them?
From the
No?
beginning?
Okay. Moving on to 9-1
Is there a
of the
question?
building and ground section.
Somebody have a question?
They just let us know they couldn't hear.
Oh, okay.
Do they want to speak on that?
The other speakers around probably pick up your voice.
Okay,
All
all right. Moving on to buildings and grounds, which is approval of consent agendas 9-1. Do I have a motion to resolute 9-1?
Alvarez.
Mr. Alvarez, do I have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Alvarez, oh, wow, double A's. Any discussion? Roll call, Irfan.
Mrs. Alcalde, Mrs. Alvarez,
Yes.
Mr. Alvarez,
Yes.
Mrs. Cruz,
Yes.
Mr. Navarro,
Yes.
Mrs. Olivo,
Yes.
Mrs. Reckett,
Yes.
Mr. Miranda.
Yes.
Motion carried.
We're moving on to the committee reports. I know there isn't any need, I guess I just assigned the new committees. I do want to thank everyone for volunteering in your different committees. I had to really shuffle a lot of stuff. However, I think you've received a new committee. We've added, some additional parts to the committee, such as to cover construction reviews, cover referendum reviews. And also cover, am I missing something?
Community engagement.
Community engagement and PTO, right?
Yeah.
You know, we have to, unfortunately, and fortunately, we have to broaden our services. I know you guys put in a lot of hours, and this is tough. I just think that these next 2 years are gonna be instrumental to the progress in Bogota. You know, there's a lot of chatter out there, negative, positive, doubtful, and I want to cover the positive and the doubt, right? Because the negative, you can't change people's hearts. They typically just come, they're bred that way. But when you take the positive and you bring positiveness to the doubt and you cross them over to the light, it shines on Bogota. It's a real arrogant statement, but I'll take it. The truth of the matter is, this is probably one of the most innovative years or the next 2 years for Bogota is transcending for sure. So I needed to add more committees, primarily because the PTOs, our schools, apparently a handful of people never knew that our schools were shifting. Just my personal opinion is that we're one of the few towns, if not maybe the only small town that caters to one budget, 2 elementary schools with the same grading levels. And we have to prioritize the process. Our classrooms are becoming overcrowded. I don't want to use the word over because Kennedy will probably swing on the right, but it is definitely, enrollment has increased. We've just added a 3rd, 4th grade classroom, is that correct? Hence, having to hire a teacher and go through the whole process. Irfa has done a great job with the management of financial budgeting, but it is our core responsibility to try to find areas that have some voids that we believe may be able to save us or provide us more time in the future, or eventually be in trailers. So why I did the PTO was because the PTOs are gonna shift, they're gonna need a voice. Because, presidents are presidents, people are people, we have to help them smooth transition, and they're gonna need a voice from the board, from Mr. Kennedy, to make sure that goes smoothly, and for any parent confusion, community engagement. Pagoda tends to do a lot of nice things. And get that wheel in the house, but somehow the outreach isn't perfected. Not that any outreach is perfect. I personally believe that we could do a lot more with the outreach. And it's probably the wrong thing to say, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we're up here because we got elected. It means we have a base of community followers. Through them, by way of them, in our residencies, we can share some of those channels and they can help us enhance or bring light to the amazing things the administration is doing in Bogota all the time, like events and parties and kid parties. So I'm trying to enhance that on the construction and on the referendum. I know we have buildings and grounds. However, there's a new set of eyes somewhat in the construction referendum, because colors are gonna come into play. Someone has to put more hands in to watch what's going on so that we can prevent hiccups after the fact. Is that fair? So I apologize if I maybe giving you a little more tasking, but we got this referendum through. The vote turnout was in favor, 5-1. However, the vote percentage was, but 5-1. And it's our due diligence to kind of get it done, all right? So but if you do have any personal something you didn't like, pull me aside, let me know, and I'll try to figure out what I can do. However, I think I've gotten to know most of you, and you're all powerful players, so it's hard to throw you in, the same place. So I moved you around, fair enough? Okay, so any reports for the committee? Any committee reports, any old committee? No? Next on the agenda, any old business? No business. Mr. Kennedy, thank you and Irfan, Liz, because that's a trio right there. No one knows it, but that's what it is. We just got a new sign for the 18 and 21. And a lot of people ask me, what is that? So hence why community enhancement is like, what is it? What is it? People's to try, what is it? So and I did hear that they're gonna meet with a previous board member's school, or kids are gonna get together. So I think that's wonderful, guys, because until you have a child, as a family member, you never know what the future is, and you're always afraid to let go. So that program really does wonders. So thank you for that. Thank you for that. Next on the agenda for new business, any new business? Moving on to 13-1, open the floor. I would like to get a motion to open the floor, hearing of the public.
Alvarez?
Mr. Alvarez, second. Mrs. Alcalde, any board discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there any member of the public who would like to address absolutely anything for the Board of Education? Please state your name. You have 5 minutes. Kennedy, Anyone? I'd like to take a motion to close hearing of the public.
Alvarez.
Mrs. Rocket, Mr. Alvarez is a second. Is that correct? Got that list?
Hmm.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, no executive session this evening?
We-
Have a,
Before you close, I just say that we have a student athlete of the week that was nominated from Bogota,
who'd that student be?
Michael Lebo Jr.
Michael,
I am definitely very proud. So if you all can vote on North Jersey, I would really appreciate it.
yeah, we will. That's not, we're not taking that vote here as council.
No.
No, listen, be safe out there. For the public, we don't know if we're gonna call a delayed
Yeah.
open.
By 8 o'clock, we should have a decision.
So by 8 o'clock, we should have a decision. Be safe, put, salt, a lot of ice, and help your neighbor, help your neighbor, help your neighbor. Oh, wait, really quick, guys, I gotta give a shout out. I did attend just to clear the record, it's actually a good thing. I attended with Susan.
Mhm.
Um,
Muslim Heritage
Muslim
Month.
Heritage.
Celebration.
Heritage Month. We had some, because I think it's ideal, we had some objections, some concerns as, state and schools, religion and schools are not, don't combine. But I have just learned that it's been granted that there will be a Muslim heritage, it's a heritage versus a religious, so I think it's something we need to learn. So on the record, I'm just speaking based on what I've just learned. So it's considered a heritage, the month of January will now be Muslim Heritage Month. If in so, we'll get the right proper understanding. Congratulations to the Muslim heritage community, right? Because we have Hispanic heritage, we have, a lot of, I don't want to just keep up, but Women's History Month, but there's Pride Month and so kudos to them. I mean, we have a lot of things and we only have 12 months, so we'll have to be splitting soon. But the truth is, for whomever went ahead and progressed in making that a vision, kudos to you, right? We have a large Muslim community in our district, so I want to acknowledge them and not forget them. That's part of the inclusiveness and acknowledgement. But what I do want to say, it was a phenomenal learning experience. The artwork that they had there to present, and it just, it's just so large, right? So Morocco, and I learned a lot of new Arabic countries.
A lot of countries.
Yeah,
They had a great
and
turnout.
just what they did, right? Like the pottery, the teas,
Where was
the
this?
desserts. It was
Teaneck, right?
Sunday? No,
It was
Saturday.
Saturday. It was in the community center in Teaneck. I don't know, it's along Voti Park.
Oh, the Rota
So it's
Center.
local.
Yeah, I hope one day
It
we
was
have a
huge.
community
It was really
center
nice.
because
And
that
food,
was,
A lot of food.
and a lot of food, you
giving
got a ticket,
you- Couple restaurants donated meals.
meals,
It's really nice.
food,
Well attended. Yeah,
it,
well attended.
it was well attended.
Yeah.
I mean, several hundred people, and we went at 3 o'clock.
I think it was 3 or 4 hours. long.
Yeah, so prior to that, you can only imagine the food, but I will say this. For the members of our Muslim community, they treated Susan and I very welcoming, right?
Yeah.
Very, I mean, they received us, they took pictures with us, they fed us, they wanted to feed us some more. They had kosher foods, it was just such a nice experience and warming experience, so, and I think it's gonna be every year now, so I would recommend that we look forward to that. And it actually sparked something, there was some sort of like science fair in some way, shape or form, and I was saying to Susan, I think we should do a science fair, right? In Bogota, we should bring that back. I think we should all get involved and bring a science fair. I also think that we should do a multicultural,
We did that. And we should do it again.
yeah, but this is the way I'm thinking. So when my son was in St. Joseph's, it was based on every country. So you did a board, you talked about their hot topics, whether it was music, your dress code, and the food. So when I was in St. Joe's, there were like 15 countries. So everybody, you invite the public, it's not just the school community, it was in the evening hours. And then everybody will come in, so they'll taste Puerto Rican platter, Dominican platter, Moroccan platter, whatever platter, plus you get like, what's your key flower and your, you know, what represented your country. So it's something we should do maybe to get community engagement going,
Yeah,
I've
so-
seen that, I've seen that in.
larger scale.
Yeah, one of the schools in Florida that my kids attended, they had a multicultural fair, they had it like every year, but I mean, at this point, it was really big, and they would do like shows where they would do traditional dances, and there was
That's
food.
what
And we
did
did
last-
something
yeah,
to
we
that
did that
level.
last
We used
year.
to, we've done that here, Trina, remember in Bixby? And they did dances, our kids were in the dances.
We
that
did
Miss
last
Nunez
year.
did
So
on
we did
Dominican.
multicultural
Yeah,
market,
we
it's
had
more vendor driven, I guess. It was.
We had families too, like Susan, we had tables
No,
in there.
I know, but I want to involve the child. I think that it's ideal if we just get the children to build the
I
concept.
think what happens here is each child represents their nationality. So we
Exactly.
wind up with a lot of Spanish, obviously,
Yeah,
and then some Irish. But if you have it, you're assigning a country to everyone, then that.
yeah, I
that
think we
changes
should
the
do,
look.
I think we should definitely consider,
That would be
it,
great.
Mr. Kennedy, we're asking you, if you would consider that one day. Okay, that's all, so move on. More work, for Mr. Kennedy. Do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Motion Cruz?
Mrs. Cruz? Mrs. Alvarez, was that you?
Yes.
For a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good idea.